In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. and IT&E.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of In Full Zoom. And we'd like to welcome our guest this week from the Victim Advocates Reaching Out. We have Brianna Duenas, who is the chairperson of the fundraising committee. John Mendiola is the PIO for Vero, and Karen Carpenter is the office manager. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You are celebrating your 40th year, and you're going to be celebrating it this year in a big way. But before we talk about that, I'd like to maybe get you guys to explain, for those who may not know what Vero is all about, if you can explain the organization, what it does, and what its origins are. And let me start with you, Karen.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Vero stands for Victim Advocates Reaching Out, and we're celebrating our 40th anniversary. And all of that time, what we do is we've been helping victims and survivors primarily of abuse, but really of any crime. But most of ours are either victim survivors of domestic or family violence, sexual assault, child abuse, elderly abuse, that kind of thing. And the way we do that is we provide emotional support. We have a hotline so people can reach us 24/7. Any time of the day or night, they can call us if they need us. We provide transportation if they need it to receive services. We provide shelter. Of course, when they're in shelter, we provide meals, we provide personal care products, we provide, anything that they need during that time. And then one of the big things that we do if they do need to leave their situation and be in our shelter is we really try to help them hook them up with longer term shelters. So we assist them with like applying for GURA. We assist them with applying for various other, longer term placements. Also, because of COVID right now, in order to get into Ali shelter, which is another shelter here on the island, of course, they have to first quarantine with us for 5 days. And so they come into our shelter first for 5 days because ours are individual rooms. It's not a congregate shelter, where Ali's a congregate shelter. And because of that, they can't accept people just directly in because of COVID. So they quarantine with us first for 5 days before they go into Ali. And so we really, and the services really depend on the client. All the services are client driven. So it depends on what that client needs regarding the services that we provide. And then if they need something that we can't provide, that's when we also refer them to other community partners. And we work pretty much with anyone on the island who can assist our victims and survivors in various ways. And so we've done pretty much the same thing all the time. Of course, how we do it has varied. How we do it has changed some since COVID. I think for everybody.
Yeah.
But that's what we do.
All right. And John, 40 years, that's a long time. Tell us a little bit more about the history. How did Vero get started?
So Karen, you can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it started as Caro.
That's right.
Am I correct, Karen?
Yes.
Yeah. So it started as Caro 40 years ago. And it was, I believe, a Navy female who approached the government, and another female another civilian that wanted to provide a service to individuals who go through domestic violence or any kind of violence, traumatic violence, and just provide them a way to, just come out and talk about it, come out and find a way to get out of situations that might be hurting them for a long run. So yeah, that's how it started. And throughout the years, it has just adapted to the landscape, of our community, making the changes that's necessary just to provide services, not just to women and children, but even men and all people that were just going through a traumatic event in their life that needed the assistance. So that's how it started.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually the first the first thing that started it was that unfortunately there was a female that was raped on island. And she had really no family here. And that's where these two women then decided, we need something. Well, they responded to her and assisted her, but that, we need an organization that can help people who maybe don't have that. At that time, it was people who didn't have the family support on island, but sometimes they don't have the family support for other reasons, even if the family is on island, or they can't use the family support because the abuser knows where they are. They can't stay with their mom because the abuser knows where they are. So they really saw a need. And again, that's what Vero is. We're need driven. What the need is, that determines what we do. And so that's how it got started. There was a need, and these two women stepped up, and from there we've been going.
Yeah, Brianna, I was talking a little off camera with John a little while ago, and one of the things we discussed was that it's kind of a bittersweet organization. It's great that there are services available, but it's not so great that we really need it here on island. You got some comments on that? I know you're a budding social worker, right?
Yes. So I've been a part of Vero for about 2 years now, and I think since joining Vero, I've definitely seen an increase in clients, and especially their needs for services. I know that Vero has tapped into other organizations to help our victims. And so this event, celebrating our Purple Gala, is more than ever needed so that we can raise funds to continue serving our clients and the people of Guam.
In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises Inc. and IT&E. In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises Inc. and IT&E.
Yeah, and John, I know we talked earlier, and you agreed to discuss it. You have no problem discussing it. You are someone who was in need of Vero at one time in your life, right? Can you tell us that story?
Yes, sure. So in the late 90s, I went through a traumatic event. I am a survivor of rape. And so the victim advocates reaching out was actually a part of the AG's office at the time, if I'm correct, Ms. Karen, the late 90s.
Yes.
Right. So they were still a part of the Attorney General's office. But Vero came out and they helped me, just kind of pull things together. And not only did they help me, but they helped my family, go and just deal with the traumatic event. Because of them, I can actually say that I've become a champion. I've become a champion of my situation. I've become a champion in advocacy. And look, today now I am a Vero public information officer because it's something that I'm proud of. It's something that means the whole world to me, to make sure that individuals out there aren't scared to come out and tell their story and look for help when they need help.
Yeah.
So just this whole event, the 40 years, the inaugural Purple Ball Gala that's about to happen, it means a lot to me. Brianna, Karen, and everybody that's working so hard. For me, it's heartfelt. I feel it all through my body and my heart. So it's just something that's very important to me.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit more about how it impacted. I mean, if there was no Vero, what do you think might have happened to you?
Honestly, I think I would have went down a darker path. I would have probably, like many others in today's society, they would have continued to blame themselves. I would have probably continued to blame myself that, it was my fault. And a lot of people do that. And I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you, Nestor. I probably would be, just doing things to seek, just revenge and just the darker side of things would have probably traumatized me so much that I wouldn't have a social life. I would have been too frustrated with people getting too close to me. But Vero provided that way. Vero worked closely with Healing Hearts at the time, and it was amazing. They helped me to seek services with ISA counseling at the time, and they were on the back road to Anderson, just as you enter. I remember all of these things very, very clearly in the back of my mind because it did change. It changed my perspective on victimization and just trauma in general. So yeah, Vero helped me so much that today I smile and I look at victims and I tell victims and I coach victims, I advocate for victims because their story needs to be heard. It's not something that should be kept secret.
Yeah. Now, Karen, we get here at KOM get the magistrate's complaint from the court on a daily basis, and I can say that about 90% of all the magistrates' complaints that we get, the police arrests, are either drug related or physical or sexual violence. Is the number of cases that you guys have to deal with on the rise, or is it leveling off? Where do we stand after 40 years?
Yes, it's been on the rise. The reported cases have been on the rise. You know, we always have to say that because long ago, people didn't think they should report. You know, it was keep the secret in the family. Don't, you know, you shouldn't say anything. So when we look at increased numbers, you know, you never know if it's more violence or if it's more reporting. And I think, you know, sometimes it's more reporting because we keep, again, trying to get the word out that it's okay to seek help. It's okay to ask, you know, for assistance. And so then that leads to more reporting. We've noticed, particularly since COVID started, that the numbers have increased. And I think that's some probably increased violence just because, especially at first when people were forced to stay in the same household, you know, before there was maybe one spouse went to work, there was some separation, at least for some of the time, so that those stresses didn't increase, so there wasn't so much, you know, problems. But when you're forced to be with who's your abuser 24/7, you know, that can lead to even more abuse. And I think there's been an increase in the violence of the abuse since COVID because people are under a lot of stress. And even though we're not now isolating, you know, there's new stresses. You know, now there's the stress of inflation. There's the stress of, you know, how are we going to pay our power bills? How are we going to pay our food? How are we going to, and when that starts happening, people feel out of control. And family violence and sexual assault is about power and control. So if you feel like your life is going out of control, then you look for who you can control. And unfortunately, sometimes then that ends up being the spouse or the children, or the partner and the children. And then they sometimes go overboard in that area, you know, well, you know, maybe I lost my job or I don't have as many hours and now I've got to pay more for things. And now the landlord can evict me because we haven't paid our rent because we didn't have a job. I mean, you know, it's all of that building up. And then I think, okay, you know, and unfortunately, then they will use physical violence or sexual violence in order to control their partner, and sometimes physical violence, unfortunately, to control the children. And we actually saw a decrease for a while in child abuse complaints, but we all figured out that it was because the children weren't going to school. They didn't have anybody to tell. And, you know, and that's really sad. Again, they were, you know, kind of trapped in this environment where they, yeah, you know, because a lot of the child abuse complaints, you can talk to CPS, but a lot of them come in through teachers or the counselors at the schools, because that's who the child feels safe telling. And so we had months when they had none of that. And so we did see the numbers come down. But we think it was the reporting. It wasn't that the abuse had stopped. It was just children, you know, couldn't report as much. And another thing Vero saw at the beginning of COVID, more when we were in lockdown, was it wasn't the victims calling us, it was their friends. So we'd get a call because the victim couldn't call because the abuser's right there with them. but somehow they were able to talk to their friend, and then the friend would call and say, I have a friend and this is going on, and how can I help her, or what can I tell her she can do? Or so we saw an increase in those kinds of calls when we were actually in lockdown. So it's been an interesting 2 years in this area. Because we have seen, some changes, things happening, and we've had to change the way we've done things. We, for a while, had to do more by telephone versus, actual face-to-face. Now we're seeing clients again face-to-face, but there was a while where we were primarily, doing things over the telephone, just, talking them through things. We never had to give up sheltering them, thank goodness, because we were the only people that could take in initial shelters for quite some time. So we were very glad that we could do that, because there were some people that really did need to get out of their situation, and we were pretty much it.
In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises Inc. and IT&E. In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises Inc. and IT&E.
Brianna, you want to add to that? And what sort of assistance does Vero need in terms of resources? More counselors, administrative help? What sort of things do you need?
I think with Vero, one thing that would be a good help is also just advertising our 24-hour hotline number. A victim advocate is available 24 hours, and you can reach us at 477-5552. We are open to, if you just need to talk, if you want to get information on resources, we are available 24/7.
Yeah. And John, do you agree with Karen that, the pandemic had a lot to do with, the increase in the number of, the frequency rather of the number of cases we've had to deal with?
Absolutely. Karen was spot on. I mean, we, as a team, we saw the increase, and we saw the need. Just being, frustrations add up, with different situations, and being in the same household as your abuser would only add frustration to frustration. You're just adding fuel to the fire. But Nestor, things need change, and that's where we come in. We want Vero to become a household name. We want people to know that Vero's here, and Vero will be there for anybody that is going through any type of trauma or victimization. And that individuals who decide that they want to victimize and traumatize individuals know that Vero is there to help them, and that you need to watch your back, because Vero's here. So, the bottom line is we want Vero to become a household name. We want Vero, we want every person, every woman, child, man, whoever you are, we want you to know that Vero's there, and Vero is your go-to.
Yeah. Let me go back to you, Brianna, and go on a more lighter note. You are the chairperson of the upcoming gala event. Tell us all about this purple ball.
Yes, I'm the fundraising chair for Vero, and we are hosting our first ever historic event happening Saturday, October 15th at the Nico Hotel in the Tossie Ballroom. And I'm not sure if you saw our beautiful save the date, but information on tickets and packages will be forthcoming.
All right. And Karen, why should the people help out Vero? Give us your best sales pitch there.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, why should people help out Vero? Give us your best sales pitch for attending this ball and helping raise some funds for you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I see the ball as or the gala, as we're calling it, as multi-purpose. Okay, because there may be people that come that really don't know a lot about Vero, so we're hoping that they will learn more about Vero. We certainly want people to come that want to help celebrate that we have been able to survive this long. We are not the longest survivor as far as a nonprofit, but we're right up there. I think Sanctuary actually is the longest nonprofit that we've had on the island, and Island Girl Power's up there, but we're right up there with them. We've been around a long time. And then too, I hope that people will come just to show their support, to say, because if you really have a deeper relationship with someone and you're talking to them, almost every person knows somebody who has either been a family violence survivor, has been abused in some way or another, whether it's just sexual harassment or actual sexual abuse or family violence of some kind, even if it isn't physical, emotional, psychological. I mean, we know people that this has happened to. It hasn't happened to ourselves. We know people it's happened to. And we want people to know where they can help others get help. Because sometimes the victim themselves won't be able to find out, but their friend maybe can. And so that's another thing I think, when people come to the gala, and then we're going to have fun. This isn't going to be a gloom and gloom thing, because we want to celebrate. We do. I mean, this has taken a lot of hard work by a lot of people. I mean, I'm not talking about the gala. I'm talking about Vero over the 40 years, and trying to find the funding. That's always a challenge. Trying to and finding the volunteers, and we so appreciate our volunteers that help us. We couldn't do what we do without our volunteers. We only really have 4 paid staff members. I mean, we're a small organization. And so, the rest is done by volunteers. So, we want to show our appreciation for them too at the gala, and let them know that. And then we hope too that people will come here, like I said, just to celebrate that we're there for the community, we're there, and we plan on being here as long as necessary. I wish we weren't necessary, but that's the way it is.
In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises Inc. and IT&E. In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises Inc. and IT&E.
All right, and let me go to Brianna, and we'll wind up with John. But Brianna, give us your best invitation to folks to support the gala coming up in October.
Yeah, I think everyone should definitely come out and support. If you cannot come out, physically due to COVID, you can definitely share our flyers, sponsor a social worker and have them come. And I think this is a great opportunity really to see what is out there, see that Vero is here, and that we are, like Karen said, we're going to be here for the long run. And Nestor, we all know that domestic violence, sexual assault does not discriminate. So this event is really for everyone.
All right, and John, 40th anniversary, but the first ever ball that you're going to hold. So maybe you can invite even some former victims like yourself.
Yes, absolutely. If you are a victim, if you are someone that just maybe had a friend or a family member who has been through something and you're surviving for them, or even if they're surviving, please come out and join us. We are also going to be doing advocate and victim sponsors. So if you're willing to sponsor a victim or sponsor an advocate, just like you would sponsor a social worker, we would love that too. And so, yes, everybody's welcome to join us. It is going to be a spectacular event. It is a milestone in the Vero community. And again, it's for everyone, like Brianne said.
Okay, the Vero Purple Ball set for Saturday, October 15th, 6 p.m. at the Nico Hotel Tassi Ballroom. For more information, email is vero.pubinfo@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yes.
Brianna Duane,
Thank you,
John
Brad.
Van and Karen Carpenter of Vero. I'm Nestor Licanto. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.
In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises Inc. and IT&E.